Today I'm going to talk about a client that we spoke to last week who wants to grow their business. And growing your business is a great mindset to have. I absolutely love that. But how you grow it is really important. You want to grow margins? Do you want to grow revenue? Do you want to grow customers? Not knowing what your growth definition is can cause a lot of problems. So on the whiteboard today, I'm going to show you a little bit about that profit and loss and show you two different versions: growing revenue, growing margin, and what that does and how to decide what's right for you. So let's start. This is the current unit economics of the business owner. They do about 75 sales a year. There's $8,000 per sale, which means their total revenue is $600,000. They have a cost of goods. So their cost of goods runs at 50% margin, means that every time they deliver that $8,000 product, they've spent $4,000 already. And down the bottom, which means our gross profit is half, so $300,000 a year. Now, the biggest thing that we've seen in life these days is costs are increasing. In our discussion, we talked about what's been the average increase in their cost base, or materials and wages, or anything that goes into giving their product to their clients, has been growing 8% every year. They're a small business, 600,000 revenue, small business, some very basic costs that they have. They have a bit of rent for a small warehouse of $35,000. They've got an internal staff member of $125,000, and it costs them about $300 per lead, roughly, to get their 75 leads. They did $22,000 in marketing cost. All in all, a pretty cracker start to business. $117,000 of profit for the financial year. So we're positive, we've done 75 clients, we assume growth will come, but deciding how he wanted to grow is really critical. Growth has a cost. It can be burdensome, and if you grow and you don't achieve the metric you want, it can be very, very disheartening. So I'm going to show you two scenarios. Growing margin, which is going to be scenario A, and growing revenue, which is going to be scenario B. So let's talk about the margin approach to growing. So this modelling says that in the next year, we're going to keep the units the same. He doesn't want to expand his operational capacity just yet. He just wants to try and price a bit better. So he's going to keep doing his 75 units year on year. But the decision has been made to increase pricing. We've had inflationary costs of about 8% on his business year on year, so we're assuming that's going to continue. But we're a bit nervous. That could go a little bit higher with the way the world's going. So we've actually increased our product by circa 18%, which drives our revenue not to 600,000, it drives our revenue to 712,500. Pretty great result. Same amount of work, same amount of leads, same amount of conversion, and our revenue is up, which is really, really sweet. But obviously inflation has occurred. Our cost base for our cost of goods sold has increased. So we've gone from 8% on our 4,000 base, has taken us to $4,320. So we got your increase. But still, because we planned for this and we priced appropriately to ensure that we weren't going back on margin, we now have a gross profit of $388,500. A nice, healthy increase from the year before for doing the same amount of work. Now, because his units have stayed the same, the plan was to not increase operational effectiveness. So there's been a bit of a leakage in terms of marketing. So the world has changed. It's been more competitive for his 75 clients. For a small marketing increase from $300 a lead to $350, we stayed in the same office, so rent has stayed the same and wages have stayed the same, effectively meaning all of his increase in gross profit margin has come down to the bottom line to his cash flow. So we're going up from $117,000 to $202,000. That is a huge increase in profit, in cash in his business for not doing more units. Now, yes, it's a difficult journey to convince someone that your pricing has gone up 20%. But these are the things that you can do when you're margin driven as a starting point in business. The difficult journey has delivered a great profit result, more cash in the bank for safety. And now we're in a position where if we want to think about growing revenue on a better margin base, it's pretty awesome. Well, let's look at option B, the world where we didn't increase margin and we just wanted to increase revenue, what that can mean. So now we're going to talk about the revenue item. The other option, instead of increasing margin, is that we focus on increasing the units in our business. So we've gone from your current 75 to 93. We've kept the price the same. It's not a margin-driven game. It's an idea of growing revenue. But as you increase your revenue and increase your units, without increasing your margin on the gross profit side, you can have a bit of an issue that could occur. So in this example, his revenue is up $750,000. More than the margin approach, because you're doing more units, and much more at his current state. But the effect of our cost of goods increase means that, yes, you're doing more units, but it directly affects your gross profit margin. And right now, we're going to sit at $345,000. Compared to where we started from, fantastic, we've got growth. But compared to the margin approach, you're really hurting yourself. Yes, we're at 93 units, amazing business growth. But to do more units, we've had a cost of goods increase, but we also will potentially have an operational expense increase. In this instance, we've modelled out that he would need a bigger factory. A bigger factory because his volume has increased. Yes, that factory might factor in growth for the future, but in that year, more costs have come through. We've kept wages, a little bit more marketing for the more leads, but effectively, costs have increased so much, we haven't attacked our margin issue, and your profit is only 10 grand more. You're doing 25% more of the work, 25 more of the headache, 25 more units through your business and pressure, but our cash hasn't increased, or our profit hasn't increased at the end of the year because we've had both margin inefficiency and operating expense increase. This is a classic tailoring business where you scale margins secondary to revenue growth, because revenue growth is easy to understand and it's easy to track. It's just number of invoices, a number of clients. It's really sexy. But if you don't get your margins right and you have an operating increase breach, what can happen is you could spend a tiresome year not growing profit, which might be your strategy, but if it isn't, you can get completely undone. I'm a big believer of a smaller, leaner business first. Sometimes that can take years to get right, and then you scale after you know your margins, or you have control in your pricing and your metrics and your OPEX. That's just me in a conservative basis, but this is the example we ran through a client, and ultimately it's his decision. He might take the approach of, I do want to scale for evaluation and exit, and I want to continue to grow my business into different states and units, and that's just who he is. But going through this exercise shows the importance of increasing your pricing and keeping your gross profit margin intact as you scale.